just like that started. Science editor Steve Newman reports on one person already using the brand new system.
What is up, guys? My name is Nicholas Carcel. Welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, I have started a podcast. Something I've been wanting to do for quite some time, and I thought it'd be pretty fun to take us all on a journey. Every Sunday, I'm going to be making a podcast with a couple buddies and people here and there and guests I meet, and just kind of get the world of podcasting in my experience level. So let's go. Let's get on this journey. We got a couple things to talk about here today, but I thought I'd just get into what this whole thing is going to be about. And just a little bit more about me. I'm aspiring to be an announcer one day and hopefully get into the announcing business. And podcasting's been fun. I've done like a whole year of radio so far with Humber College, and that's been a pretty good journey so far. And honestly, learning my experience with Humber College and radio media production, it's been great. It's taken me quite some time to get the actual concept of radio, and switching from television to radio was actually something very interesting. Just the whole world. There's a whole different world in radio, and something that I really didn't discover until I actually went into the program. Radio people do not like television people. It's just something that's well known within the industry. TV people don't hate radio people, but radio people hate TV people. It's a little weird. But I guess it's just because money and ratings and everything goes into television, and everything to do with that probably has to go with radio not doing so well recently in the last couple years, maybe decade. And yeah, they're trying to bring it back with podcasting. And so maybe I'll do them a favor. Maybe I'll do them a favor by bringing on this podcast. But we're going to talk a lot about sports, stuff around Toronto, stuff around the world, media, anything that pops up that has something to do with media and just popularity, especially sports, because that is something that I am passionate about and I have a lot of experience in talking about. If you do follow me on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok, you do know that I talk a lot about Toronto-based sports, the Maple Leafs specifically, the Blue Jays, Toronto FC, the Raptors is something that I like to get into, and it's a lot of fun to talk about, especially right now, the Toronto Raptors and the Maple Leafs, who are currently looking at a possible playoff scenario where they could go to the Stanley Cup final. We'll have to see. Don't want to get too much into that because you rant on forever with them. But I did want to bring up one thing today on the Toronto Raptors. And the Raptors right now have recently clinched a playoff spot. And it's been a good ride. It's been a crazy ride for the Toronto Raptors. Take a look at the standings actually for the Toronto Raptors, because they've had a pretty good season. Oops, this is the NHL. Let's move on to the NBA. Standings for the Toronto Raptors, currently sitting in 5th place, and the Boston Celtics are 50-31. The Philadelphia 76ers are 50-31. Both 3 games behind the first seed, which Miami has now won. And Sunday today, Boston, Philadelphia, and Toronto all play. So Toronto is currently going to sit in the 5th spot going into the playoffs. There's no doubt about that. They're going to stay there. It's whether they face Philadelphia or Boston. And it used to be Milwaukee, but Milwaukee won yesterday, so they clinched their spot in the 2nd as of last night. And to be quite honest, if I'm picking a team that I want to play in this playoffs, I'm picking the Philadelphia 76ers. As a Toronto fan, knowing Toronto against Boston, not even just the Boston Bruins, but the Celtics against the Raptors, it doesn't really go well. It has never gone in a direction that the Raptors really want to be in, or a scenario they want to be in. Last time they played the Celtics, they were absolutely getting destroyed, and then they kind of came back, and then it went this way and that way, and it just wasn't a good thing for the Toronto Raptors. By the way, I just saw on Twitter, George Springer home run. The Blue Jays up 1-0 at the time of this video. Blue Jays are playing the Texas Rangers today, and we'll get more into the home opener as that goes down. But right now, 1-0 Blue Jays. Woo! Raptors, they want to play the 76ers. And it's not just because they had Kawhi at the time when they did beat the 76ers back then. I believe it was the Eastern Conference Finals, or was this was the Eastern Conference semifinals, and then they played Milwaukee in the next round. But I don't think Philadelphia is scaring the Toronto Raptors as much as Philadelphia is scared of the Toronto Raptors, if that makes sense. Looking at the season from Scotty Barnes, looking at the season from Pascal Siakam, Van Vliet's had a mediocre type season, but he's still one of the best players on our team. Gary Trent Jr. stepped up really big. OG Anunoby's been in and out with injuries, and he's been pretty decent as well. But when you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, and yes, they got James Harden. Yes, they traded Simmons away, the guy they've been wanting to get rid of for forever, and finally got a guy that they think can help Joel Embiid be the best player he can. And right now, Joel Embiid is thriving with this new change of Ben Simmons not being in the lineup and James Harden being able to feed him the ball and vice versa. And yes, I agree with that. Embiid is doing fantastic. But at some point, I think the Raptors, if they find a way to shut down Joel Embiid in the playoffs, because that's the main man you're looking at. James Harden has not been the guy in the Philadelphia 76ers lineup. He's not been that good. So I think if you find a way to shut down Joel Embiid, you got yourselves a good chance of beating the 76ers. Now, I know that's pretty tough. And yes, the Raptors have done it before with Giannis, and maybe they could beat Milwaukee. But I don't want to play Boston, mainly for the fact that Boston didn't even have Jason Tatum this season and still beat us in the regular season series. Period. They beat us in the regular season series, and 2 of the games they didn't have Jason Tatum, and they won both. So that's definitely not a team I want to play. The Boston Celtics. Stay away from them. Go with Philadelphia. They're a team you want to play. They're the team that doesn't look as scary, at least for the Raptors' sake. Maybe on paper, Philadelphia is a scarier team, and that would probably make more sense. But just stay away. Just stay away from them. The Blue Jays home opener was actually not that long ago. I got the luxury of going to the game, and man, what a performance. What a performance by the Blue Jays, but not just by the Blue Jays. The whole Blue Jays organization, the staff, everyone there at Rogers Center. The performance was incredible. The production was insane. And coming from a TV background, I can value that and see that there was a lot to look for in this team. Especially with how they put on that show for the home opener. I went to a home opener a long time ago. I believe it was 2016-17 when it was the Boston Red Sox versus the Blue Jays. It was supposed to be the Red Sox this year, I think, but then obviously the MLB scandal and obviously games got pushed back, and they ended up playing the Texas Rangers for the first series. It was really fun to watch. They had a lot of good lighting. They had some really good sound effects. They brought in some of the players to introduce kind of what's going to happen. And then they had the kind of like the fireworks going, and man, it was great. And one thing I don't think a lot of people noticed about this Blue Jays game, if you tuned into the first home opener at the first pitch and you missed the national anthem, you missed out. You missed out big time. That was the best national anthem performance I've ever seen in my life. Seriously. That the two were absolutely phenomenal, and I would love to find out who they actually are and listen to their music, because they were incredible. Some of the harmonies, some of the belts they were doing, just beautiful stuff from, I'm actually going to look it up right now. Blue Jays home opener. And because, man, they were spectacular. They were actually something else. What should we call this? I guess national anthem. Yeah, see, it's already coming up in the feed. So many people are searching this up because they were just incredible. Sportsnet on Twitter. Can't find it here. Okay. So I'm actually not seeing the performers. It doesn't look like they tagged them. Maybe I'd have to go on Instagram. But please. Oh, here we go. Shoshana Bean. Shoshana Bean, I think. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, no, this is not the lady. This is someone else. They were incredible. They really put on a show, and the American anthem was a lot better than the Canadian. I mean, the Canadian anthem, don't get me wrong, is beautiful, and it just makes us feel proud. But the way they sang that American anthem, my God, that was something else to watch, to be a part of. The actual game itself was unbelievable. Watching the Blue Jays beat the Texas Rangers down 7-0. I actually made a recap on that on my YouTube. If you did want to check that out, I do recaps for every Blue Jays game, especially the third one that's being played today, Sunday. So make sure to check that out if you do like Blue Jays content. But yeah, what an incredible game. 7-0 down, and then all of a sudden the Blue Jays started to work their way up. And I said this to my buddy who I went to the game with, and it was really interesting seeing all the people that were just getting so pissed at the fact that the Toronto Blue Jays just were down 7-0. And I was hearing boos, and I was hearing all this stuff. And I looked at my friend and I said, this game isn't over. I don't know why everyone's so upset. Because if you watched the Blue Jays last season, if you saw this team last year, you would know exactly what you were having in store, what this team was going to bring. It was spectacular. They came back. They tied at 7-7. A gorgeous home run by Teoscar. Everyone in the crowd shouting, Teo! Like, fantastic by the Blue Jays. And lost my voice after the game. Still kind of recovering from that a little bit. But, man, there's nothing else to describe the moment than just spectacular, because the Blue Jays put on a performance I could not forget. And actually, after the game, I was sitting up at the 500s, and for those who don't know, in the 500s, basically the nosebleeds, pretty close to the nosebleeds, but I was a couple rows behind the actual front of the 500s, so I'd say 7 or 8 rows back, so not that bad, not as bad as some of the other people behind me, but just the entire atmosphere of after the game, walking down that's not the stairs, they're like some ramps that they have at the Rogers Center. You walk right, then left, all the way down until you get to the very end. It's a very hard walk, to be honest, but it was so fun because you had all the Blue Jays fans at the top of their lungs screaming, "Let's go Blue Jays," and obviously the clap, "Let's go Blue Jays," that kind of chant, and everyone in the entire vicinity of the walkways was chanting it, everyone high-fiving. It's almost like we won the World Series, but we've only won the first game of the season. But now we're 2-0. Really good stuff from them. And speaking of that, there is one sport I do want to talk about today, and that is the Masters. I'm not really into golf. I never have been. But recently, I've always grown up around golf, of course. My grandparents have been golfing all their lives, pretty much, and they've always wanted to get me into it, but I never have, and I didn't think I ever would. But now, as an adult, wanting to actually expand on what kind of sports I'm known with, I do actually want to get into golf, and it's really, really interesting what's going on the Masters this weekend. Let's take a look at the standings, because there actually are some incredible stuff happening. The Masters are taking place actually as we speak. So let's take a look. So you got Scheffler at first right as of now on the leaderboard. And this is round 4. So Scheffler has not teed off yet, so he's still in first, but he is not teed off for the final round of the afternoon. Obviously, the first place guys, they all tee off later in the day. This is a little bit different than what I was seeing last time around. Let's look at the actual. Can we get like an actual here? Let's let's do it this way. Masters scoreboard. Let's go for it. And yeah, there we go. Okay, so Scheffler is -9 under. Again, as I said, he is not teed off yet. Smith from Australia, or is it Australia, New Zealand? I think that's New Zealand. He's -6 under. SJM, he was first at one point, and now he's 4 under. So that's still very good, and he could honestly still win, but it hasn't been that good for him. Our Canadian boy Connors is 1 under, and then Kim, who was actually in first, I believe, has. Oh no, that wasn't Kim. It wasn't Kim. But he has gradually gone higher as the tournament has gone on. Masumiyama, he was +3. He could still very well win the Masters, but it's going to really be tough for him to do that. One man who's golfed really well, or at least adequate, has been Rory McIlroy. He's come back a little bit. The Northern Ireland boy, he's been +1 on the entire tournament pretty much. And if he can get hot, and if Scheffler and Smith end up dropping the bag, I mean, one good day could really win the tournament. Unfortunately, Tiger Woods is now +7, or now he's +10 on the tournament. He had a +7 day yesterday, and it's not good for Tiger Woods, obviously. But on the other hand, you know, he had a joke about it in an interview, a post-game interview, and he specifically talked about how laughing it off that, man, it was the putts. It was on the greens, and really sometimes you can get lost in the greens, and that's something I learned starting to golf as well. Another man who's actually done videos with Do Perfect, the Spanish man John Ram, who is +5 on this tournament. So a couple guys who... McIntyre as well, +3. So there's a couple big names. Zalatoris is still within reach, and a lot of people said Zalatoris is going to win this whole tournament. He's +2. I don't think anyone really named Scheffler, and I'm really curious what happened to Johnson. So Johnson is +1 with Rory McIlroy tied up there. But Johnson was first place for quite a while, and he must have had a atrocious afternoon yesterday. As it was very windy last night on the greens and on the course. And yeah, that probably got to this team just a little bit, not being able to get your putts correct or your drives or your irons right, especially with so much wind, because the ball's not headed in the direction. You got to kind of calculate how much wind you're getting and aim for that wind. If there's no wind at the time, you completely miss your shot. So not the best conditions for some of the golfers, and some of them struggled, and obviously Tiger Woods failing in that sort of category. But it's been a really good Masters so far, and we're gonna get to see a lot of that as the day moves on. Today is the final day of the Masters, and again, just waiting for some people to tee off. I think Rory McIlroy just teed off this afternoon. Connors is yet to tee off. Or some other names. Looking for Johnson. Dustin Johnson has just started, and he's already 2 over, so that's not great. McIlroy finished with a par for the first hole. Lee is not doing that great. However, Im from South Korea is still within the race. So Connors, again, as I said, they're all going to tee off probably later this evening. Probably at 3 o'clock they'll tee off, and around 6, 7 we'll hear the final results and who's won the Masters. But it's still well within reach for Connors. I think the Canadian can definitely do it. He has to have a phenomenal day, and Scheffler has to just have a very poor day. Yeah, for him to actually win the Masters. It would be very interesting to see that happen. Yeah, I would really love to see Connors come in and just win the Masters for Canada. It'd be great. I just saw on Twitter right now that Tiger Woods just got a bogey, so not that great for Tiger, but you know, he's having fun. He's won Masters before. He doesn't really need that green jacket anymore. I'm sure he would love it, but he doesn't need it at this point. So just a little bit of a short podcast today. Not going to really get into much. We're going to talk a little bit more about some of the other stuff in the coming weeks. Especially next week, I will have a guest on this show. I intended to have a guest today. Unfortunately, he was unable to make it, but I will make sure to have a guest for the next show. Whether it is him or someone else, it will have a guest for the next show. We're looking to get more into just talking about everything in entertainment, media, and there was a couple funny laughs recently. Yesterday, I believe, was there was some music awards for Nickelodeon, and I think Jack Harlow attended. They were shooting slime at everyone, and Dixie D'Amelio got an award, and she had slime thrown at her. They're all wearing white. I think it was intended for them to had thrown slime on. Sophia Carson and Jordan Fisher were hosting, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I watched about half of it. Didn't get really through the whole thing, but it was a really good show. And yeah, just to see some of the girls fall in love over Jack Harlow was kind of funny as well. But that's really it for the podcast today. We'll get into more specifics as the weeks come on. Just a little bit of a short one to get it going. And thank you guys so much for watching or listening. I really do appreciate it. If you did enjoy the video or the audio version, again, I'll be posting this most likely on either Spotify or Apple Music or something like that for our listeners out there. So anyone who is listening, you're probably listening on either Spotify or Apple Music. I will let my viewers know on Instagram where it'll be located for the rest of these podcasts. I will actually figure out a name eventually. I don't think for the first one I'm going to have a name. I'm still working on the name, but I do want to get something that is concrete and actually has meaning towards how I am, where I grew up from, and just everything that is rooted within me and where I kind of live around and stuff like that. So I do want to find a name that is fitting to me, and I don't think I've found that yet, so I'm gonna wait a little bit longer before I do name it. For right now, you'll probably see something in the title that's just kind of an off name or whatever, but yeah, I will get that name eventually. But thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys next Sunday. We will be doing these every Sunday. Gonna look to start posting these at about 1 or 2 at the day. Don't quote me on that, but we will have a podcast out for you guys every Sunday, whether it is in the evening or the afternoon or the morning sometimes, but we will make sure to have fresh content for each and every one of you listening. Thank you, and I will see you in the next one. Take it easy, guys.